Now, the Superior Police Department is recognizing the swift actions of its officers as the Superior School District works on new safety plans. Northern News Now's Kyrie Johnson spoke with the police chief about what happened and what's next. Kyrie.
Yeah, Laura, it's clear that the city of Superior is grappling with the aftermath of yesterday's incident, but leaders are pointing to one clear takeaway. Quick action by officers prevented a far worse tragedy.
This community is safe because officers were willing to take a bullet for the people of Superior.
Those were the words of the Superior mayor after the events yesterday. Words that Police Chief Paul Winterscheid echoed today after watching the body camera video himself.
Everybody was taken aback by her bravery and her composure during that incident.
And while Chief Winterscheid was impressed by the officers' actions, he also took the time to emphasize the importance of concerns parents may have about the school, despite being certain the school was not the suspect's initial target.
Just keep in mind that these sort of things, while they are incredibly unlikely, they can happen anywhere, and our police officers are going to be ready to respond.
The Superior School District also spent the day finalizing plans to assure their students of safety moving forward. They've decided that students will remain out of the building until the damage is fixed.
It's really been about assessing the damage and determining really two things, what cleanup is needed and ultimately how to secure that front entrance, because that's an important part of keeping our schools safe, is that front entrance.
On-site staff, including trained counselors, will also be preparing to help welcome students back with as much normalcy as possible.
As we're planning for students to return, what are some common talking points? How can staff talk to students about the situation that occurred at our middle school? And how do we return back to learning and routines?
Chief Winterscheid tells me they expect the final pieces of the investigation and charging to move relatively fast. And students are scheduled to return to school in person on Thursday. Live in studio, Kyrie Johnson, Northern News Now.
All right, Kyrie, thank you. This is a developing story. Stay with us online for the latest updates by downloading our Northern News Now app.